Hi everyone, welcome back to Jazz Intersections. My name is Madelyn Gardner. I am the PR and External Comms Manager here at Jazz Lincoln Center. And I want to thank you for tuning in for our third ever episode of Jazz Intersections, our new weekly Instagram live show where we interview a new guest each week from all walks of life, from artists to activists, musicians, you name it, a little bit of everything. So I'm very delighted to introduce you to and bring in our special guest for today. He is a bassist, composer, and YouTuber with a subscriber base of over 1 million people. His educational content explores what music means and what it means to be a musician. He's appeared on NPR, TEDx, SiriusXM, South by Southwest, name a few. His videos cover a range of topics from music theory, music cognition, jazz improvisation, music performance, musicology, and my favorite, memes. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in, if everyone can maybe do some clapping emojis, some hands up emojis for Adam Neely.
Hey, how's
it going?
It's going well. Memes are my favorite too, which is
fantastic. So we could just talk about memes for 30 minutes here on Jazz.
So what do you feel like the top jazz memes of 2020 are?
Thank you for kicking it off. I was hoping that you would ask that. Are you in New York right now?
I am, yeah. I mean, it's you know, surviving the apocalypse as everybody else is, but yeah, I'm here. I'm in New York.
Awesome. Well, thanks for virtually joining me, and it's nice to virtually meet you as well.
Of course, yeah.
I have some questions prepared for you if I just want to kick things off.
Okay.
So the videos and all the content you put out explore, as your tagline, which I'm a fan of, what music means and what it means to be a musician. And obviously you have like very deep, strong ties to jazz itself, studied at Berkeley, as well as Manhattan School of Music. But at the same time, you regularly perform, when live music was still a thing, you regularly perform with electro band, indie soul, rock bands, electro jazz bands. How did you find your space, so to say, in the music world that felt authentic to you and that still allowed you to be a working musician?
That's super tricky to basically like synthesize everything, and I feel like every young artist and every young musician has many interests, and they're pulled in many different directions, and it's honestly a work in progress for me to try and figure out how to be like, this is me and this is everything that I do, because I like to do so many different things. I mean, I've always been a bass player. I like playing bass. I like being a sideman. I like supporting other artists, and I like playing, modern jazz, whatever that is, in as many different contexts as I can. So it's been a kind of a process from bringing the YouTube stuff, which is another kind of passion of mine, teaching online and creating these online videos, and then also taking, my performances and my compositions and trying to bring them all into this one thing. I think for anybody out there who's like listening and as a young artist, you don't have to try and find your identity immediately. And so it's always a work in progress for everybody to figure out what your thing is. And I'm still really working on it. I really am. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a process.
Well, obviously you're doing something right. So you have just like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and was also, I believe, your first video that you made was 14 years ago?
Yep. I've been doing it for a while. Yeah.
I'm guessing, and I mean, I could be wrong, but when you posted your first video like 14 years ago, you weren't like, this is it, I'm going to have a career path doing this.
Absolutely not, no.
So how did that become what it is today? And I guess for anyone tuning in, I know you must hate getting this question, but any suggestions on how to build your audience and also create interesting and unique content? I mean, I know you do stuff that ranges from how to practice without using your instrument, and also like, deep fake Jay-Z, but also it's jazz.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm watching the comments. Apparently, I'm very wide.
I'm seeing that as well. I think that Instagram has done this fun thing. I'm seeing it normal, but I've seen some Insta lives where we're a little wide right now. But I think that's part of it.
well, we're talking about the hottest memes. Wide Putin is the meme of August, I guess. Still need to do a wide Putin. Anyway,
now does
the
that start
question
on TikTok, I believe, as well? We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, so it really wasn't until a couple of years ago before I was like, all right, YouTube is the thing that I want to do. And I think for everybody, you always see the end result of somebody's hard work when they're trying to like create a piece of music or create like an identity, create some improvisational style or whatever, but you don't see the years and years of failure. Like on YouTube, it was a slow burn. I just was uploading videos because it was fun to me. And the same reason why I play music, it's fun to me. I think it's exciting and I love connecting people with, like that. And anybody who's looking to grow an online audience has to first take it from that perspective of creating something that you are really excited about, because cynicism doesn't work on the internet and cynicism doesn't work in any kind of artistic endeavor, I don't feel like. Cynicism might work in business, cynicism might work in, being an entrepreneur, but first and foremost, when you're trying to create something, you have to do it from a point of wanting to do it and from a point of love. And so for anybody who's out there, that's the first thing. Don't look at it as trying to grow, trying to become something big. Look at it as like, all right, what do I want to do year after year, over and over again? Because that's the thing that's going to feed you. And if you're cynical about it, it's not going to be something that's long lasting. So, I mean, yeah, I've been doing it for 14 years, but it wasn't until about 2 years ago where I started doing it full time, like this is my job. And it was about 5 years ago when I started doing it regularly, like when I started uploading every Monday. And I think another piece of advice for people is to be consistent, to set deadlines for yourself, and to not worry about perfection, because none of what you're going to release is going to be good in the beginning. And that was a big hurdle, but for me, but just by setting a date, like, all right, I'm going to release something every week, that definitely helped a lot. But yeah, I mean, those are the pieces of advice. Set deadlines for yourself, do stuff that you love, and be consistent, and don't worry about getting it right, because that's it. Nobody's going to get it right, especially the first time that you do it. So.
And that's a great piece of advice. And also on that note, what about internet trolls? And I mean, I don't think it's all, I don't know if I personally love that term, because people are pretty funny on the internet. I'm a big fan of the internet, but do you read all of your comments, or have they ever?
No. Well, there's too many, unfortunately. I mean, which is a good and bad thing. I mean, the very vast majority, which is super awesome, and I'm very excited about this. The vast majority of people who watch my videos are like supportive. They just want to engage. They like want to talk about the subjects. I'm gonna say like 99.9% of people are awesome, and then of course there's people who aren't as awesome. And I try not to even engage with them, but for the longest time, the way I would troll back, because that would make me feel better. The best comment to leave on anybody's diatribe about how bad you suck is just to type "I'm sorry" and then period, and then that's it. And then they either get more angry or realize that they were being an asshole in the first place. So there's ways of engaging with trolls, but for the most part, for the long-term mental health, I try not to, even though it is really fun for me. It just, I've been doing it for too long, and too many trolls have anything and everything that you feel bad about yourself will be reflected in some comment. And it's really bad to dwell on that. It's negativity. It's just not productive. And for me, I'm lucky, and also my identity, I'm a white straight male, and my colleagues who aren't a white straight male suffer way worse abuse than I do. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But for the most part, I just try and ignore it.
It's hard, but I feel like that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
I wanted to shift a little bit and talk about music education. So obviously it's very important to you. You teach music, and you also do these really great videos in kind of a non-traditional way. What drew you to that, and what kind of keeps you going with that?
Well, I love making connections between things. That's, I think, honestly, for myself, making a connection between two different ideas, whether it's two different kinds of music or music and another subject like philosophy or history or whatever. I like making connections between things, and I like telling stories. And that can be reflected in traditional education, music education, but I found that the YouTube format works very well for what exactly I like doing, which is finding weird things and telling stories about them and engaging with them in unique ways. Like, I really wanted to harmonize a Jay-Z deepfake because it was funny to me. But, you know, we can talk about patterns of prosody and stretch patterns in language. We can talk about ideas of rhythm and where pulse lands in relationship to speaking rhythm. You know, there's all these things that we can talk about when you're engaging with things that you might be passionate about. And I love that. I love talking about the process and also getting people's, and my own, like, wheels turning about, like, all right, what actually is this thing that we're engaging with? And, you know, for me, the best teachers that I had were always getting me to think bigger. Like, this is a toy that you're playing with, but think about how it relates around to the world around you, whether it's social justice, whether it's philosophy, whether it's history, whether it's language, anything. And music is so much bigger than just sound. There's so much more, and that's exciting to me.
Also, I just want to let you know, there were several comments asking if you would marry someone's mom. So I'm going to let you, we'll get back to that, whoever asked.
Okay.
So think about it. Just at the end, we'll give the big reveal. And I also want to say, anyone that has any questions for Adam, we'll try to have a little Q&A at the end. So go ahead and ask your questions there. I typically ask a lot of my guests how they envision their work changing or evolving in a post-COVID world. And with you, this question is kind of interesting because, like, as we're talking about, you're ahead of the curve, and you have this really great subscriber base and engagement and branding online. Now, of course, you also play live music. So I'm wondering, has the past 4 or 5 months, I don't even know, it's been 3 years, time doesn't even mean anything anymore. Has your work changed a lot, and how do you picture the post-COVID music entertainment industry world?
Yeah, so it's going to be a hard one, honestly. And I was very fortunate because I did have something to rely upon in this, like, online thing. But, you know, my entire year, you know, I was planning on touring. I was planning on talking at universities and talking at events, and I was planning on doing all kinds of things. And of course, everything for the past, like, 4 or 5 months, I've been in this room just thinking about things and working on my YouTube videos. I think this is the level of change that this is going to bring is unlike anything else. I think that live music, unfortunately, when it's like large groups of people, I feel like live music is not going to be sustainable for many, many years. And I think smaller groups of people, which is, you know, great for jazz, honestly, and great for the kinds of music that I love making. Smaller groups of people in smaller, intimate venues, that's going to be a thing eventually, but not right now. And you can't make a living doing that. People are looking into live stream setups. I definitely have been working with live stream setups in terms of being able to, you know, essentially have a broadcast studio in your recording studio or in your room, like complete with different camera angles and things like that. People are looking into Twitch. I think the people who are most creative with this and let go of traditional means of revenue and traditional means of playing music, I think they're the ones who are going to survive the longest. But it's going to be hard for everybody. And I was very fortunate in having this business for myself before everything. So.
Have a lot of people reached out to you for suggestions and how to, you know, it was really interesting and kind of cool to see the music community come together so immediately to be like, okay, best practices in live streaming. What are we going to do right now to keep this community going? And if you have any, I mean, obviously, sometimes people ask me questions too. I'm always happy to help, but it's like, sometimes Google is the best answer. But is there anything that you can suggest that maybe Google won't tell us and wants to keep a secret?
Well, I feel like so one of the things that happened immediately when everybody went online was all the late night hosts like Stephen Colbert you know, all of them, they immediately started basically producing segments from their home with their phones. And the quality of the production quality was garbage. It was really bad. And you had YouTubers who were like producing video content for years and years with much higher production quality than anything that was on TV, which was interesting. They very quickly adapted, which is testament to them. But I feel like musicians haven't been adapting as fast because people have basically said like, all right, well, we're going to, like, I'm sure you might have noticed this, but in the first like week after everything shut down, immediately on Instagram, it was live stream on top of the stories. And people, there's no reason to watch a live stream like that when the audio is terrible. You really can't hear any of the music going on. Music live streams are very difficult because you want to have the experience of watching something that's produced live. And in order to do that, you need a really good mix. You need good, in theory, good camera angles, and which also means you can't play drums unless you have a good mix. You can't play anything loud unless you have a good mix. So the live streams which have been working the best are usually smaller and intimate, usually piano and one other instrument or something very small. You can't have something big and loud unless you have a really serious production behind it. And so I think in the future, in the next couple of months, that kind of like honestly, like the small thing is going to become more and more the default, and like the ensemble performance is just going to be a thing that is less and less feasible for most people. The barrier of entry for an ensemble performance is going to go way, way higher, which is like, it's weird to me, but that's just the technology is putting a barrier to entry on performing. So anyway, if you're going to live stream, don't do it with drums. That's my all
right, sorry,
advice.
drummers that are listening. Obviously, Adam is sitting on. Just kidding. I mean, is there a way? What would be the best practice for drummers to do that? I mean, well, we've had some. We do live streams on Dizzy's on our Dizzy's Facebook page. I think it's like Thursday through Sunday, and we found. I mean, it's interesting because, like I said, the music community kind of came together so quickly to kind of figure things out, but.
Well, having a professional mix, and you can't really do that with Instagram. Instagram is based on just your phone, right? How do you get a stream of an audio stream to Instagram? It's actually impossible in the API. So drums, particularly for the platform of Instagram, they don't go together. And that's an important thing to consider whenever you're a musician, is to be thinking about the individual languages, the technical languages of each platform, and how your instrument and how your craft will come across through the technical limitations of social media. Drums work beautifully as a solo instrument, meaning just like as an instrument for Instagram. That's great. But once you start trying to play it with and like mix in other instruments, that doesn't work. It really doesn't. And it's just kind of an unfortunate limitation. So with drums, I found the best practice is for like Facebook live streams or YouTube live streams or Twitch live streams. Have something like run mics through your drum set, learn how to mic a drum set, get an OBS studio, which is a live streaming studio, very important to have that, and get a decent sounding mix that way, and then send the OBS studio or send everything to one of the major streaming platforms, like I said. But Instagram isn't one of them, unfortunately. So it's just, there's a fundamental disconnect there. Anyway, I don't want to brag on drums. Drums are a great instrument. I have many friends who are drummers.
Well, two things we learned is we're wide right now, and Adam hates drummers. I'm kidding. Drummers are great. Okay. Yeah. There's ways around it, but it's interesting trying to figure out how to do it all, live stream wise, because, and it's interesting too. I mean, when you think about Zoom versus Facebook, Zoom takes, the lower sounds and it goes, this should be high. And it's like, no, Zoom, that's actually not what I was asking you to do. But.
Right. And I mean, I think there are ways of avoiding that, but Zoom is also, Zoom's not made for music.
Right. Well, I don't think the people who, I think the people that created Zoom were not like, okay, well, like 600,000 people are going to be using this when there's a pandemic. So it's been interesting to see. I see a bunch of sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say to bass players out there, there's a frequency range of 300 to 400 hertz when you do the EQ or equalization. No matter if you're upright bass or electric bass, boost that. that is the cell phone frequency for basses, because most of the time you can never hear a bass on your cell phone, but if you boost between 300 and 400 hertz, like a lot, that's going to help a lot with actually making your bass present. That is probably the biggest tip that I can give anyway. 300 to 400 hertz. Do that. Anyway, sorry. You learn
No, that's incredible. You heard it here first. You can go ahead and Venmo us for that later.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, who are some of your biggest influences for music, but also specifically like music innovation?
Yeah, I mean, the term innovation, I'm not huge on, mainly because I don't think anybody who is truly innovating, what we would say, is thinking from it from that perspective. They're just trying to create the coolest stuff for them right now.
Right.
One of the biggest pieces of advice I ever got from one of my teachers was like, you cannot escape the time in which you live. And if you are truest to the time in which you live, you will make the truest art. And through that, you're just naturally going to be innovating. But yeah, I'm enormously inspired by Lewis Cole and Knower. They're amazing. I'm enormously inspired by Evan Marion, who's a great bass player, and he makes really awesome music. I'm really inspired by Victor Wooten. Victor Wooten is just like, to me, a great bass player, but also just a fantastic teacher and educator, and just a good person to watch and good person to learn from. In terms of innovation, I really like the electronic music producer, Mr. Bill. He has some great stuff. It's just really exciting. And, I've gotten to talk with him a bunch, and it's really interesting to talk to people from outside of the academic framework, because they're the ones who are playing with sound like on a very fundamental level, and they're not intellectualizing it the same way that a trained jazz musician would. In other words, they're not hearing, like literally not hearing C major 7, they're hearing this frequency band, like, oh, that like 800 is feeling kind of brittle right now. What if we do a multiband compression around 800? And immediately you're listening to sounds so much differently. And I feel like much more viscerally, because recorded music is just treated as an art unto itself, a craft unto itself. And I'm just, anytime that I talk to any of these people, I'm very inspired by them, and it's really exciting to like see what they're doing. So Evan Marion, Mr. Bill, Lewis Cole, Knower, just, they're awesome.
And speaking of jazz, since you brought it up,
Jazz.
why do you think it is that, I mean, obviously people love jazz, connect with jazz, there's jazz in almost every type of music. Why do you think jazz gets such a bad rap?
Well,
not a bad rap, but you think it has this kind of weird connotation.
Well, yeah, I honestly think, though, like, one of the coolest things about being online on the internet is that anytime you take yourself too seriously, it's not going to go very well in the public eye. And I think it was very important for jazz to take itself seriously, to keep the craft and keep it from being bastardized, and keep the history alive, honestly, because it is an oral tradition. And so you want to be very serious about keeping the oral tradition alive in a way that classical music didn't really need to, because everything was written down. But at the same time, people respond very negatively to that, because it seemed like being a gatekeeping thing. There's no easy point of entry for jazz for somebody who doesn't have any experience with it. And I think that's the main reason, is nobody seems to be having fun. Nobody seems to be having just like, fuck it, we're just hanging out. Like, yeah, let's play some jazz. Like, unironically. Like, I do that all the time, but I don't think that many people do, because people treat it so seriously as a means of trying to keep the art form going. And I think that it's a double-edged sword. But I think it's fun. I think it's great. And I think if you take it and yourself less seriously, but take the production of it very seriously, I think everybody wins. So I think I'm still very thick I'm still very wide, but I'm enjoying wide.
Well, actually that's part of Jazz Intersections, is that, we get to speak some truth and some deep things while looking really wide. It's actually, it gets the best out of the
wide.
It's all part of it, I have a friend I know that is tuning in right now, a guitar player, an engineer friend, Dan, who's been watching your videos for many years, and be very upset if I did not ask your opinion on tuning to a 432?
A
I'm going to pretend like I
432.
understand that.
So there is like this kind of I call it musicians flat earth, but it's not really musicians who do it. It's people who are in, I don't even know. It's a very new age kind of thing, but it's 432 where you retune your instrument standard to A equals 432 hertz versus our current standard of 440. And it does sound different. It does objectively sound different. It sounds a little bit warmer because the harmonics are a little bit lower. There is no particular reason why 432 would be better than 430 or 434 or really anything. Anything lower than 440 is naturally going to sound a little bit more relaxed and a little bit chiller because our ears are so used to our current tuning standard. But what gets weird is there's this numerology involved, and a lot of, I guess, websites out there and sacred geometry things try and ascribe certain traits to tuning to 432 because of the numerology of how 432 divides by 9, its relationship to the Schumann resonance, which is the ionosphere's electromagnetic resonance of the Earth. So basically the resonant frequency of the Earth is a multiple of 432 if you tune C to scientific pitch. It's this whole thing, but it kind of falls apart once you actually try and start making music with it, because if you do any of the math that the new age people say you need to do the math in order to tune to 432, you have to play in the key of A all the time. A is the only key that you could ever play in. And also, you can only play an A major triad. So if you're actually trying to make music and do anything creative and like create sounds, the math isn't going to work at all. So if you want to tune to 432, it's fine. I do that sometimes because it sounds different and sounds cool and sounds different. Tuning up to A450 also sounds very different. It sounds like it's a really tense and there's something like aggressive about it and biting because it's sharper. I know like Jacob Collier does these things where he modulates from 432 to 440 upwards, and it sounds really cool because it's this different tuning system. But if you're trying to say that it's the better tuning system, I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Did you find there's a lot of argument online about like, this is the best way, the only way to do it? Or is it more of like a preference?
Oh no, there's definitely a lot of misinformation, weird misinformation kind of thing, like conspiracy theory saying that this is, this is like the Nazis said that we should tune to 440, which is true because they were on a 440 standard, the same way that the US was, the same way that Britain was, the same way that a lot of countries were. So I guess the Nazis said to do the metric system. So, it makes very little sense. Correlation doesn't imply causation. But there's a lot of like really weird conspiracy theory stuff out there. And I've made a couple of videos trying to debunk it, but honestly, it comes up every time. I should probably make another video just going in on it because it's very strange. It's a very strange conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theories, man. The internet. There's a conspiracy theory about everything, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to start the 440 causes coronavirus. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
I'm sure there'll be that, and also that why the Adam Neely is, there might be something there as well. Well, we're almost out of time here, so I want to just wrap up I saw this question here. How to better tie my music to my thoughts. When composing, I get stuck in a rut where I don't feel like what I'm composing matches my intention with the music.
That's an interesting one. I don't think a lot of us, especially the trained musicians, are thinking about the emotional characteristic of the music that much. And sometimes it's hard to like divorce our own emotions from the music that we're trying to create. It's hard to find our own emotional truth in the music. I think probably a better way of saying that is a good exercise just for any musician who's trying to write music is to try and score a film. Try and like score a scene from a film, like or even just like write a screenplay or like bring a screenplay up. And if the scene calls for happiness, try and write happy music. If the scene calls for tension, try and write tensious music. And really think about the emotional truth about the music that you're making and not tie it so much to what you're feeling, rather what's necessary to score the film. And that's a very different way of, writing. When I was when I write music, most of the time I'm just, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Without really thinking about, okay, well, what does it make me feel? Or what does it make you feel? Or what does it make people feel in relationship to maybe a movie or in another kind of media? And I think by thinking more about the emotional truth of the music that we make, I think we get a lot closer to the point where we can connect with people in a deeper way. And it's hard. I think it's hard. It's being able to detach from your own emotions, but also understand your emotions as they're relating to the music that you're writing, and writing music with that in mind as well. It is much easier said than done, though. Any piece of advice that I ever give, I'm realizing, whenever I say that, I'm like, damn, that's easy for me to say, but it's hard to actually do. It's hard to do anything, but
that's every piece of advice I ever give. I'm like, but that's easy, but you don't. That's why you can give advice. Easier to give it than to take your own advice.
Yeah, for sure.
But I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to just, if you want to plug anything where everyone can find your stuff.
So I have a YouTube channel. It's not Adam Neely, and it's not Adam Neely 2. There's a defunct YouTube channel because I literally forgot the password and the email that I used to create it, called Adam Neely Eats Things. And it was when I was in college, and it's just videos of me eating a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, chili. So yeah, if you want to just watch college Adam just eat food, I started the trend. It's Adam Neely Eats Things. So go watch that. And
amazing. Yeah. Is there some like music playing? It's just you?
No, it's just me eating things. Yeah, that's
amazing.
There's no joke. It's just me eating something.
Incredible. Well, I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Thank you.
And not doing any work the rest of the day and just that. But I think my boss will understand. But thank you again so much for joining today, and everyone for tuning in. And we'll be back next Friday with another guest. Thanks so much, Adam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good one.